Welcome back to Photoshop for scientific visualization. As of the last chapter, we've finished up our graphic, which I've grouped up into one single folder over here. And since last time, I've also created a few other things. First, we have another hue and saturation adjustment layer that turns the colors to a soft red-brown. We also have a folder that contains a bunch of leaders and labels, and we have a title. And in order to deliver our project, we need to create several different JPEGs. First, we need to create a version that simply has our graphic, and then one in the different color. And for each of our colors, we have to have one version that only has the title. And as well, we need to create a version for each color that includes the labels. But specifically, when we do have the labels, we need to have our title in the top left. So we should total to about 6 different iterations. What we could do is we can head up to File, hit Save As, give these all a unique name, and change the format. But if we need to do this for all 6, it's not very efficient. And imagine a scenario where you're saving even more versions. So we need a different method, and that method is going to be layer comps. You can find layer comps in the right toolbar with this icon down here. If you don't see it, head up to Windows and select layer comps. So what layer comps is going to do is it's going to help us save the state of our document. So right now we have our title in the top left, our labels, and a red-brown color. I'm going to create a new layer comp at this point. When this window pops up, we can give this a name, so we'll call this red_labeled. And beneath our name, we have a few checkboxes. First, we can choose to tell the layer comp to remember the visibility of all our layers, so whether something is hidden or not. We also have the ability to tell it to remember its position within the canvas. Also, we have a checkbox for appearance, and this includes layer styles and blend modes as well as opacity of our layers. So we'll click OK. A layer comp is created, and now we have 3 icons at the back, and these corresponded to our checkboxes. Notice now that if we click on them, they'll gray out, so we can still adjust these afterwards. But when we first created this document, those states as they are right now will have been saved. Now let's create another version, this time without the hue and saturation. So I'll turn that off. I'll create a new layer comp, and this time it will be blue labeled. I'll click OK. Again, we saved the visibility, the position, and the appearance. Now, all we need to do to go back to our red label is to click on this empty box beside the text. And now we go back to the state where we were previously. Click on the box beside the blue labeled. We're back to the state with the hue saturation layer turned off. And let's keep going. So the next thing we need to do is to create the versions without the labels. So I'll turn label off, and I'll move my title down to the bottom right. So let's just hide that window for now, approximately here. And in our layer comps, let's create blue title. Then let's show the hue saturation, create a new layer, call this red title only. Again, if we want to go back, we just hit these little empty boxes, and everything shifts to the states that we saved. So let's just finish this up. Without the titles, create another version. This is red graphic only. Turn the hue saturation off, and now we have blue graphic only. So let's say now we go up to our red title only, and we turn off the position of all our layer comps. What's going to happen is when I jump to, let's say, red labeled, you'll notice that our title didn't move back up to the top left. But if we enable this, notice how our little box is now empty and we're simply back in the default last document state. Click on this again, and we're back to the state where we had the title in the top left. So we go back to red title only. Again, the same thing happens. We have this positioned in the top left, but the moment where we enable position again, reactivate this, and our title goes back down. And this is true for both the visibility and the appearance of our layers. So layer comps in this sense acts as a great way to jump between states as we're working on different parts of our piece. But the most important thing that we're after right now is the ability to save all these layer comps out into their own individual JPEGs. And to do that, all we need to do is head up to File, go to Export, and you'll have the option to turn layer comps to files. If we select this, we'll have a dialog box that tells us where we want to save our documents. So right now we should be set to layer comps, which is good. And we can create a file name prefix, which I simply named cell project. We have the option to export only the selected layer comps, but because this is not checked off, we'll be exporting all our layer comps that we have on file. And finally, we can select the file type that we want to export. Right now, JPEG is selected, but you can quite easily create PDFs, TIFFs, PNGs, or whatever you want. So we'll hit Run, and Photoshop will think for a little bit as it's generating these images. And once it's done, if we head over to our Finder window, you'll notice that we have created a JPEG for each of our states. So let's just quickly preview them. So we have our red labeled, our blue title only, as well as the red, and of course, our two graphics without any text at all. So now that we have our 6 exports, our project is a wrap.